Afternoon or good evening, and thank you for joining the 2025 Summer Camp Virtual Information Session brought to you by the DC Department of Parks and Recreation. We're excited that you're here to join us on this virtual information session regarding our summer camp program that is coming up this summer. A couple of things that we do want to remind you of is that number one, if you have a particular question that you're needing to ask our team, who we have individuals from our camp registration as well as our camp programs office that are online with us this evening, please use the Q&A question box. That question box question, if it's a particular direct question related to a program or service or something that you're seeing in that you have something specialized that you would like us to respond to. If you are using the chat feature where you're asking a particular question, please note that we are reviewing those chat questions. However, because the program is going on live, it may take us a little while to respond or try to filter in as you're asking your particular question. So we're asking you this evening to help us in the process and to use the Q&A. It is the button on the right-hand side. There is a box with a question mark that can allow for you to be able to have our team directly respond to your particular question. Apologize for that. And so it is 6:32, and team, we'd love to get started with the presentation tonight. My name is Tommy Jones. I'm proud to serve as the Chief of External Affairs for DC Parks and Recreation. I'm joined by my colleagues, Natasha Herring, who is the Chief of Community Programs, and Mr. Christopher Tierney, who's the Chief of Registration and Operations for the agency. If we can click on to the next slide. All right. Well, tonight's agenda is pretty simple, but we are all excited to talk about 2025 summer camp programs at DC Parks and Recreation. So we will do our introductions that I've done before. We'll have Natasha Herring talk about our summer camp program overview, which her and her team have been working on throughout the year. So I know she has a lot of great things to talk about on that. Camp registration. So all the tools and things that you need to know about how to register your son or daughter or young person for camp registration. My colleague Chris Tierney will talk to you about that. Then at the end, closer to the end, we'll have a Q&A session where we're responding to questions commonly asked in ways in which you are reiterating some things that many of you are talking about throughout the evening. So that'll be where Natasha, Chris, and myself will all be able to answer those questions for you. And then we'll give you some friendly reminders in the end. We can click to the next slide. All right. Just want to give a couple rules of the road. Again, thank you to all that are participating. This presentation is being recorded, so the recording will be available in the next day or so, where we'll send it out to all of those that have responded via RSVP and for both noon and this 6:30 presentation. We'll follow up with information that is also available on our DPR summer camp page as well. But tonight is very simple. If you have particular questions, we ask that you wait and listen to the entire presentation because more than likely, your particular question will be answered throughout the presentation. Additionally, if you have a question, a specific question related to program operations or program registration, please make sure that you use the Q&A button that is available, and we have staff that are responding to those live this evening. So we'll try to get to as many of those questions as possible. So please use that. Remember the chat feature if you have a particular comment or a suggestion or something. We are monitoring that, but we want to let you know that as a team, we're really trying our best to make sure that we answer specific questions related to camp programs and operations. And so, to help our team and to help you get the necessary things that you need for tonight, please use the Q&A feature. Um, and so, at first, we also just want to make sure that you're polite and courteous to your patrons that are on as you're using the different features. Tonight is about making sure you have the best information possible to be able to help your child or or you whom you may be the guardian of understand how to get into our 2025 summer camp program. So I'll click to the next slide because my good friend and colleague Natasha Herring will tell us everything we need to know about 2025 summer camp right here at the number one park system in the system, DPR. Natasha, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tommy. I appreciate that introduction. Yes, I will give an overview. It will be a relatively broad overview, but I think it will answer a lot of the questions that you may have running through your head right now. So let's go to the next slide and get started. So the summer camp overview, you'll get a much lengthier discussion and explanation about the lottery registration process in this town hall today. But I just wanted to advise everyone that the first day of the lottery registration opening will be February 14th. That's this Friday. I'm sorry, next Friday at noon. And then it will close on March the 3rd at 5 p.m. If you haven't noticed, I want everyone to go and take a little bit of time to go and check on our website. You'll see that the locations are listed with the appropriate camps that will be held in each of those locations. Give yourself a chance before the lottery registration actually opens to go in and view those so that you can kind of come up with a roadmap for your family about where you might want to go for summer camp. And then that way, when the lottery registration opens starting on February 14th, you'll kind of have an idea where you want to target your selections. The camp dates are June 23rd through August 15th, 2025. We strive really hard here at DPR to align our schedules with our colleagues over at DCPS and even some of the charter schools. So we wanted to make sure that we aligned our dates with when school is actually out and they've been out for a little bit, had a chance to decompress, and then we can begin our camp program. In some years past, you may have noticed that we started school on a Wednesday. I'm sorry, camp on a Wednesday. And that could very well be because school extended their calendar. And so we, of course, accommodated our calendar and made a quick adjustment just to make sure that we can accommodate as many students as possible. So Monday, June 23rd is the first day of camp. Friday, August 15th is the last day of camp. If you notice, that's 8 weeks total of camp. And so we break those 8 weeks up into 4 2-week sessions. And so you'll get additional information about how you'll pay for 2-week sessions and how they actually run. There'll be another slide that actually goes into the session date so that you can have that at your fingertips as well. So camp runs Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day. We will be closed on Friday, July 4th, of course, for the Independence Day holiday. And that is part of session 1. And so that means that session 1, the rates for session 1 will be prorated by 1 day. So if you notice there's a slight difference from the cost of session 1 to the others, it's because we do prorate for that 1 day of July 4th. So again, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., beginning June 23rd, running through August 15th. And of course, we're closed on Friday, July 4th. There is a before and after care option available for nominal cost. That allows you to drop your child off at 8 a.m. and pick them up by 6 p.m. So you get that hour on the front end of the camp day and an hour on the back end of the camp day if that is what one of your family's needs. And so the before and after care cost is $20, and that is $20 for the full 2-week session. So if you're using it for all 4 weeks, for 2-week sessions, I'm sorry, then that would be an additional $80 that you would pay for before and after care. Next slide, please. So I mentioned earlier that we would break down the session dates, and I think this is really important to see because some families, we recognize that everybody doesn't need all 4 sessions. Many do, but there are some who do not need all 4 sessions. And so having the session dates in front of you helps you, again, chart that path to where you want to go for summer camp. So our session 1 will begin on Monday, June 23rd, and it will run until July 3rd, which is a Thursday. Session 2 begins on Monday, July 7th and runs through Friday, July 18th. Session 3 will begin on Monday, July 21st and run until Friday, August the 1st. And then our final session will begin on Monday, August 4th and run through Friday, August 15th. Again, I just want to reiterate that there will be no camp on Friday, July 4th. Next slide, please. So what are our summer camp offerings? You know, we have signature camps here at DPR, we have sports camps, we have specialty camps, we have boost camps. So I want to kind of give you a rundown of what those offerings look like and the ages that each of those camps might serve. So for our 3 to 5-year-olds, we have a camp called Little Explorers. It is a very, very popular camp. Discovery Camp is for ages 6 to 10. And then we offer therapeutic recreation camps for ages 3 up to 16. Of course, those are split based on the ages. And I do want to note here that for therapeutic recreation camps, there is an assessment that you must complete before you're admitted to the therapeutic recreation campsite. Then we have our various specialty camps. So our culinary camps are returning, so are our aqua day camps, as are our STEAM camps and our performing arts camps. All of those will be returning to our inventory this year, and we're very excited about those. Then we have a variety of sports camps, gymnastics slash cheer, and then a basketball camp, and then multi-sport camps for ages 8 to 13. I'll also note the specialty camp ages start around age 8 and go up to about age 12. Our boost camps are for our tweens. So we know that oftentimes when you're at that age between 11 and 13, you're kind of too old for signature camps, but not quite old enough yet for the SYEP program. And then you have that lull where you really don't have a lot to do for 11 to 13-year-olds. And so to respond to that, DPR created the boost camp system. And so boost camps accommodate ages 11 to 13. Additionally, we will be activating our overnight camp at Camp Riverview. That's for our ages 8 to 13, and more information will follow about Camp Riverview. That offering is slightly different as far as pricing, and that is a week-long overnight camp. At least that was the model that we used previously, and we will likely stick to that same model. Next slide, please. So let's talk about summer camp fees. So as you can see, most of our signature camps and our sports camps and therapeutic recreation camps are $135 for a 2-week session, okay? There is an opportunity for reduced rate, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but I want to make sure that we stress that we don't want price to be a barrier, so we do have some other options that I'll talk about a little bit later. So $135 for all of our discovery camps, all of our little explore camps, all of our sports camps, and all of our therapeutic recreation, or you'll hear us sometimes say TR camps. Those are $135 for each of the 2-week sessions. For 2-week sessions in our specialty camps, the culinary camp is $220. The STEAM camps, and they break down by age. We have a little STEAM engine, which is $220, and a full steam ahead camp for our 6 to 10-year-olds for $325. Aqua Day Camp is $185, and our Performing Arts Camp is $185 as well. As I mentioned before, the before and after care is $20 per session. And again, that $20 covers both before and after care for the entire 2 weeks. We do have the opportunity for constituents to apply for reduced rate if there is a financial need, and we encourage people to apply for reduced rate. It does close on February the 24th. So if you think that you may qualify for reduced rate, we encourage you, please visit our website, dprsummercamp.com, and make sure you fill out an application for our reduced rate. There are some requirements. You must be a DC resident to apply for and receive reduced rate. And you also must show financial need. And so we have a chart that we use that's essentially aligned with the federal government. And so we will use that and we'll give you your answer literally within minutes about whether or not you qualify. And you could potentially qualify for a 50% reduction or a 75% reduction in your camp fees. That reduction is not applicable, however, to the before and after care rate. So the before and after care cannot be reduced any lower than the $20 per session. Next slide, please. So what do we do at summer camp all day? So camp is an 8-hour trip, right? It's 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And that's a long time to engage children. But our youth development professionals are very good at making DPR the place where the fun happens. And so anytime between 9 and 5, you can see a wide array of activities that you might see shown as examples on the board. So we have character development activities, and those encourage peer-to-peer exchange and interaction, and also provide opportunities for socialization. We then have program enhancements. We'll have people that come in to provide additional enhancements to what's already going on in camp. And some of our past enhancements have included environmental education, some fitness. There's some mobile recreation done by our amazing roving leaders. We also have STEAM enhancements, and then we use sister agencies to provide enhancements like FIMS, the Office of Unified Communications, DC Public Library, and more. So there are a lot of enhancement opportunities that arise in summer camp, and every camper, to some degree, will receive many program enhancements throughout the 8 weeks of summer camp. So swimming will happen in camp for your child. It will not happen every day, but it will happen at least once a week. And that could increase based on your location. So if there's a location that you have your child enrolled in camp and they happen to have a pool on site, you're guaranteed the one day a week of swimming, but there could be additional days added. The one thing I want us to remember, though, is that the other sites around the city who may not have a pool on site will have to be bussed in to use the swimming pools for their particular swim days. So that increase in frequency may not necessarily happen, but it certainly is a possibility. We're very fortunate in this agency and in this city to have our own inventory of swimming pools. And so being able to have that luxury provides us that avenue to be able to send our kids to the swimming pool without having to go through a bunch of hoops to be able to get them to some other pool that doesn't belong to district government. There is also arts and crafts activities. We have some amazing recreators who are very, very crafty and very, very artsy. That is not my lane, so I stay out of it and I allow the professionals to do their thing. But we have lots of arts and crafts activities. We do buy kits sometimes, and sometimes we go old school and just put a bunch of materials on the table, and our facilitator can create an art and craft activity out of those materials. And then, of course, outdoor recreation. We think it's very important for kids to get outdoor exercise and activity. And so there's a lot of outdoor recreation activities that we do put into our summer camp curricula. And of course, field trips. A couple of years ago with the pandemic, we had to turn off the field trips, but now they're back and we are full speed ahead with our field trips. And we've sent our kids on a variety of field trips to a variety of different places, from museums to Cameron Run, which is another sister jurisdiction. It's not in the district, but it is a relatively close jurisdiction. And roller skating, all types of field trips that you can imagine that we send. I will add that all of these activities are included in that $135 price for the signature, and then the other prices that you also saw for our specialty camp. So there is no additional fees you have to pay for them to go to Cameron Run, or for them to go to a museum, or for them to go roller skating. There won't be any additional fee except what you saw previously based on the type of camp that you select for your family. Next slide. So I want to talk briefly about our summer meals program. Again, we are very fortunate in that we have a connection with OSSI where we work with them to provide meals for every camper in the city. Previously, the only sites that received meals were the ones that were in neighborhoods where the school was a high farm number school. And so that was abolished a couple of years ago. We felt like every child, regardless of where they attend camp, whether it's in Ward 1 or Ward 8, Ward 6, Ward 4, that they all deserve a balanced meal. And so we gave them 2 balanced meals. We provide breakfast for them and we provide lunch. Again, it doesn't matter if that location is in a place where the closest school does not have a high number of free and reduced meal students. It doesn't matter. Every child will receive breakfast and lunch every single day. We do offer to send out the menu. The menu will also be posted at each of your campsites so that you can take a look at what the meals are that are coming up for the week. And we know that sometimes our children don't eat certain things, or we may have some dietary restrictions, and we want to make sure that we allow you the opportunity and get you to understand that you are well within your rights to send your child with a meal. They will still have their lunch with their friends at camp. There won't be any disruption in that. And so they'll be able to sit down with their friends and have their breakfast at the times listed above, as well as the lunch. I do want to add, though, we do not have place for refrigeration or for heating up meals. So please keep that in mind if you're sending a meal with your child. It also may be a good idea to send a snack with your child. As you can see, lunch can run anytime between 12 and 2. By 3:30, 4 o'clock, after all the activities, these kids are famished again. So if you know that your child is a snacker and may need a little pick me up in the afternoon, you may want to also consider sending a snack with them and have that conversation with your facilitator so that they know that there might be a pack of crackers or some goldfish or things of that nature that you sent with your child because you know they get a little hungry after 3 o'clock. Next slide, please. All right, so that sums it up for the summer camp overview. Again, that was just a very broad overview. I know that you may still have some questions, and we do have staff that are answering those questions for you. I'm going to turn it over now to Chief Chris Tierney of Program Operations to talk about the summer camp registration process. Thank you so much for your attention. Chris, take it away.
Thanks, Natasha. Yeah, Chris Tierney. I am the Chief of Program Operations, so our office handles the registration system. And first of all, I want to thank our team for really putting together a good lottery system this year. Next slide, please. So we'll go over some dates and we'll talk about these throughout this presentation. Natasha pointed it out just a little bit ago. The lottery will open up February 14th and it will run all the way to March 3rd at 5 p.m. So you have a nice window to submit your requests. It doesn't matter if you do it at noon on the 14th or at 4:59 on the 3rd, they'll all count the same. She touched on it briefly as well as we are closing our reduced rate application for summer camp this year on the 24th, so we can process all of those before we spin the lottery. There is no relation with being approved for reduced rate and applying for the lottery. So you still can apply to a lottery spot and then we can approve your reduced rate during that process. I will talk about a little bit more, but notifications will be sent out on the 4th. So we'll spin the lottery and then it will generate emails, either acceptance, waitlisted, or no winners. From the 4th until the 16th, you have time to look over your selections. If you were selected, pick what best fits for you, and then complete that transaction to solidify your camp spot for summer. You have until the 4th to the 16th to work through that process. At the 16th, if you haven't done it, they'll automatically be canceled, and then we move to the automated wait list. So it's very important between the 4th and the 16th that you accept that camp spot. Next slide. So again, really excited. This is our 3rd year with the lottery. Our team, our office, our department has put in a lot of work to make it as seamless as possible for everyone. So again, it's 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks really this time. And so don't rush, take your time, look through our splash page, see what camps might work best for your family. And then we recommend going in and submitting those entries. All entries to the lottery are free. It doesn't cost to submit a lottery entry. You only are charged when you accept it and complete that process. You're allowed to make 4 selections per child per session. So we do 4 sessions of summer camp and you can submit 4 picks per session. Again, ages are calculated on the start date of camp. Lottery again is DC residents only. And one thing that we're doing this year for new 2025, if you have an older account starting from before January 2023, we're asking that everyone re-verifies their residency with us so we can just make sure that only DC residents are getting camp spots. Next slide, please. So this is a little how-to. If you're not sure if you have verified your DC residency, no harm in submitting it again. When you log into your account, you can go to your drop-down menu, and then on the far left side, it just says DC residency verification, and it's a fillable form. You upload your driver's license, and it takes us about really 7 to 10 days to approve that and get that re-verified. Next slide, please. Okay, so our registration process. Our comms team has created a lovely landing page, lots of information on there. We encourage everyone to go in there and look, frequently asked questions, reduced rate information, camp locations, everything that you might need to know should be on there. So take a look at that. The steps are very simple. when you go to our splash page, you'll click our camp location. A nice screen will pop up, and there'll be a button for session 1, session 2, session 3, session 4. Next page, please. So once you open up your session, so right now we're only going to talk about session 1, but once you click session 1, you'll have the option, depending on the number of children in your household, to either do a individual lottery submission per child or a household submission for the whole family. Pretty straightforward. You select your children. Little drop downs will come up. You pick your camps that you're interested in or you want to submit your lottery entry for, and then you process it back out. The next slide has a little more detail, a little closer, a little easier to read. So we'll get into those next. Next slide, please. So this is a slide of an individual enrollment. You can see there on the left, I have 3 children under my household, and each child is in a vertical column, and all my choices fall under that. So in the individual lottery enrollment, you are deciding to choose spots for your children individually. They are not tied together at all. So we didn't really want to create a system that forced you in a certain direction. We've created a system that allows you to do what is best for your family. So in this scenario, each child gets its own lottery number. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the linked enrollment. You can see again, I have all 3 children selected, and this time our choices are vertical and our children are horizontal. And how this works is if your household number gets pulled, it will check everything that you've selected in choice 1 to see if there's availability. If there isn't availability for everyone you've selected in your household, it will move to choice 2. You'll do that same process. If there's nothing available, you'll go to choice 3, same process, choice 4. So basically, in a linked lottery enrollment, there has to be spots for everyone that you've chosen. In this scenario, you're choosing that you want all your children in the same location or very close to each other. If one can't go to camp, they all can't go to camp. So that is kind of how we link it. This is our household preference, right? Some call it sibling preference, but this is keeping this household as one unit. So you'll get one lottery number for this household. Next slide, please. So once you submit your enrollment, you pick either linked or individual, go through that process, submit your entries, and then everything lands in your pending enrollments. And this is under your account when you're logged in. There's a tab in there that says My Pending Enrollments. This kind of is a snapshot of everything that you have selected. You can review it, make sure it looks good on your end. If you want to make a change, you've talked to a friend, they pick some different camps, whatever it may be, you can go in there and cancel that submission and resubmit a submission for session 1, session 2, session 3, session 4. You can continue to do that until it closes. So you can adjust it throughout that process. It doesn't interfere with anything. It just counts as a new submission for us. But if you do cancel it, it does cancel the entire thing. So you have to start that whole process again. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a little bit of detailed on the spinning and notifications and where to find everything. So when we close it on the 3rd, we will then spin it the next day on March 4th. As soon as it spins, it will start generating automated emails. Excuse me. We do ask that you give us a little bit of time, right? It's going to be sending out thousands of emails, thousands and thousands of emails. And so session 1 will be run, session 2, session 3, session 4. So if you don't see an email for sessions 3 and 4 as quickly as 1 and 2, just wait a little bit and those emails will come. It's really important, though, to understand that you're entering into a lottery system for a chance to be picked for summer camp. Just because you enter into the lottery, it does not matter. You know, it's not a guarantee that you'll get a camp spot. The notifications you'll receive, you can see here, if you aren't selected for anything, your receipt will say canceled non-winner. So that just means you did not get your number pulled. It did not work out for you. The other option is enrollment offer. That means you have a selection in camp. And the third option is wait list. So we do hold a wait list on all of our camps. So you do have an opportunity to win a spot on the wait list. And so once those receipts are generated, again, then they land in your My Pending Enrollments. And from there, you can accept or reject that offer. It's a few clicks of a button. It'll take you through the waiver and the processing screen to complete your transaction to fully enroll in camp. You have, remember, you have from the 4th when we spin to the 16th to accept. So you don't have to accept it right away. Your spot doesn't go anywhere. If you need to make adjustments for funds or whatever it may be, you have all the way until the 16th to do that. As soon as the 16th hits or closes at the end of the day, all those pending enrollments, if they were in your cart or wherever it may be, they will be canceled, and then our automated wait list begins. So it's very important that you monitor your email and accept your camp spot before the 16th. Next slide, please. Oh, questions. I think that is it. Sorry, that one snuck up on me. Yeah, Tommy, Natasha.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Chris and Natasha. And I first want to also thank our team that has been responding to many of the questions that have been in the chat. It has been refreshing to see that we've been able to respond to individuals in real time. I've noticed we've been up to 91 participants that have been on this call this evening. Thank you for all that have been involved. If we can click to the next, um, wanted to touch on a few things, some common things that we've heard, and then also to just talk about some of our frequently asked questions. And we're going to just sort of do them rapid fire here because some of them we've touched on, but we'll reiterate for folks to make sure that they're aware of some of the things. So the first thing is if we can just touch on um, our refund policy. When are we, uh, if Chris, if you want to just touch on a refund policy and how if a person applies for summer camp, then like to get a refund, how we handle that.
Yeah, thanks, Tommy. We do have a refund policy. If you want to cancel your spot in summer camp to receive a refund, you must do that before May 16th. We will process that refund, but we will not give back 10%. We hold 10% of that entry. And so for a refund, you want to do it before May 16th. But you do have the ability to cancel a session all the way up until the start of the session. You just will not receive a refund for that canceled session. So the deadline is May 16th. That's the date that you want to see. If it's not on our splash page, we'll make sure that we get that up big on our splash page for everyone.
And Chris, you touched on this really quick, and I'm going to put these two questions together. You just said, when is the last day to cancel a session? And I think the answer to this one is it's not too late to apply for reduced rate, but if you can just tell folks, remind them the date for applying for a reduced rate application.
Yeah, we're asking everyone, we're going to turn off the reduced rate application on the 24th of February. So that gives us enough time to process that and get it updated in your account. Again, applying for a reduced rate and entering the lottery is two different processes. So you still can enter the lottery and then we'll review that application. And it goes automatic. So you won't have to do anything. When you click your acceptance button, if you're qualified for a reduced rate, the fees will be automatically deducted and then your process is still the same.
All right. Thank you. And then Natasha, I'm gonna go off the not on the frequently asked questions, but I think these are a couple of quick ones that I think you can touch on really quick. You've been here a long time. You've seen a lot of children come through summer camp programs at DPR. So a couple rapid fire ones. Does my kid need to be potty trained?
Yes, the children need to be potty trained to attend camp. There are some concessions given for our therapeutic recreation campers. And so again, once the assessment is done for the therapeutic recreation camp, we can, on a case-by-case basis, to make that determination. But any other camp in our inventory, your child must be fully potty trained. And so we do recognize that children, especially when they're coming into a new space with new friends that they've just met, with new adults who are standing there with them, it can lead to some nervousness and some anxiety. And sometimes a child will have an accident, and we recognize that. But as youth development professionals, we all are also able to pick up on the fact that a child is not fully potty trained. And so fully potty trained doesn't mean they have an accident here or there. That's an expected response to children coming to a new space, dealing with new people. But if it's repetitive, then we know that there's a pattern. We can understand and recognize that these children are not necessarily potty trained. And so that also includes pull-ups, right? So if your child depends on pull-ups, and that means that they are not fully potty trained. And so we've had some little explorer parents, say, hey, well, they just need a pull up on when they go to sleep. Well, that basically means that they're not fully potty trained. And so we don't have them down for downtime very long, about 20 or 25 minutes. And so they need to be able to control that urge to use the restroom and actually stand up, wake up, whatever it is, and go to the bathroom. So we do recognize when children are not fully potty trained. So we urge you, if your child isn't fully potty trained, it's okay. We can, look forward to seeing them maybe in summer 2026. But if they're not quite ready for summer camp 2025, I would urge you to not register them for camp, because once we recognize that they aren't fully potty trained, then we reserve the right to remove them from camp. Okay, so we want to make sure that your children are completely, fully potty trained. Thank you, Tommy.
And Natasha, I'm going to ask you another question. I saw this in the chat and a parent asked about it, but can you talk about um, two sort of particular ones, nuts and allergies? So if my child has an allergy or if my child needs an EpiPen, can you talk about
Sure.
those two particular things?
Absolutely. We are a completely free tree nut facility. So no tree nuts of any kind, no almonds, no peanuts, no walnuts. We do have an alternative sometimes, because everyone, from my generation, we raised on peanut butter and jelly. And so we're not able to do that as often as we like because of that nut um, allergy potential. And so what we do, we use sun butter in some of our meals, and you'll see that on a menu here and there where there's a sun butter and jelly sandwich. But there are no nuts to be sent with your children. We won't be distributing peanuts or any kind of tree nuts that I mentioned before of any kind to the kids, because we do recognize that there are some high allergies to those foods, and we don't want to put our children at any sort of risk. DPR is a place where fun happens, and before the fun, though, we have to make sure that we keep everyone safe. That's our campers and our staff. And so one of the ways that we do keep them safe, we are a completely nut-free facility, and that's in every location. And so our facilitators, all of our camp staff really are actually trained in EpiPen administration as well. Again, we work with one of our sister agencies to be able to provide that training for us. And then that way, all of our staff are EpiPen training. They know how to administer an EpiPen. So if your child has an EpiPen, you'll get more information about this at a later date once your child is actually admitted to camp, once they won a lottery slot. But if they have an EpiPen prescribed to them, there'll be some specific instructions so that we can make sure we can identify and store said EpiPen. But rest assured that all of our staff will have training in EpiPen administration to keep your children safe.
Awesome. I'm going to ask Mr. Tierney, these sort of questions are all related in terms of registration. So how does, the first question is, how does DPR determine the child's age at the time of registration or at the time of camp? And then can you talk a little bit about sibling preference um, in terms of enrollment? And I think, these are sort of, do I have a better chance of getting my kid in, both kids in if I do one or the other? I know we can't talk about how to play the lottery, but maybe you can touch on those two components.
Yeah, so thanks, Sammy. The first one is we calculate the age at the first day of camp. And so the system, even as you're selecting through your lottery process, it will recognize your child's date of birth. And so it will only display the camps that your child is age eligible for. And so that date is the first day of camp. So an example is you could be a little explorer 3 to 5 for the first 1 or 2 sessions and then turn 6 and then you qualify for discovery. So the system will recognize that and then it will show you those opportunities for those correct ages. Um, yeah, the sibling preference, household preference is a bit of a weighted question, right? Uh, So the two choices are individual or linked. I can't say that you'll have a better chance either way. Um, but how those are designed as individuals, um, they each get their own opportunity to go to camp. And so if it's okay for your household to have one child in camp and one child not in camp, then you could do the linked if or the non-linked individual. If you do the linked, um, that's a household number. So once it gets pulled, it goes through that whole process to see if there's additional space in those camps. If you do linked, there is the chance that they will stay together for your first choice, second choice, third or fourth choice, if that makes sense. So linking is the only way to get that household together for your camps. If you register them as individuals and one gets in, we can't change that individual registration to a linked and try and do that sibling preference. Again, our camps are so hard to get into already. We have such a high demand for our camps. We do a great job throughout the summer. And so it's just, you have to choose ahead of time if you want to do your individual or your linked registrations.
Thank you. Natasha, I'm going to turn to you um, and ask you the question. We've heard a couple questions related to our two programs that we offer, boost camps and therapeutic camps. If you can just, you know, give a just a generalized, and I know our team has done a great job of putting the actual website information for boost camps and therapeutic camps. It's online, so all that information. But I just think people had questions like for therapeutic camps, what is that? What does it entail? How can you know, you talked about the testing that is needed. Just if there's anything that you can help those individuals understand about the therapeutic camp, um, to help them understand how they can best support their son or daughter that may be interested in that program. And then just boost camps, you talked about the age of it and is it 2 weeks? Is it 1 week? Just if you can touch on that, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So yes, our therapeutic recreation camps is something that we're really proud of here at the agency. We are staunch advocates for adaptive recreation, and our therapeutic recreation camps are one arm of that. And so we have a brand new, beautiful building over in Ward 7, the Joy Evans Therapeutic Recreation Center, where at least two of these camps will be taking place. So our camp adventure, largely geared towards our older children, will take place at Joy Evans. And then Let's Play Together is another camp. It's similar to Little Explorers, but it has more of a therapeutic emphasis on it. That's for our kids ages typically 3 to 5, but it can extend beyond that if once the assessment is completed, that we recognize that they probably need to be with that particular age group. So those are 100% therapeutic camps in therapeutic recreation center that we have all summer. In addition, we have inclusion slots. So some of our therapeutic recreation participants, their families may want them to be sitting in a discovery camp. And so we have some inclusion spots in a discovery camp or some inclusion spots in a Little Explorers camp. So that way they're, grouped with the regular discovery children. And, that's a second option for them to take advantage of our adaptive recreation model. And so, as I mentioned before, to get into any of those therapeutic slots, though, you must have an assessment completed at our Joy Evans Therapeutic Recreation Center. Our staff are therapeutic recreation professionals. Most of them have gone to college and earned 4-year degrees in therapeutic recreation. And that, coupled with their experience, we're dealing with a wealth of knowledge amongst our staff who have studied therapeutic recreation and practiced that for many, many years. So you're in great hands here at DPR with our therapeutic recreation staff and with our facility. And if you haven't had a chance to visit Joy Evans Therapeutic Recreation Center, I encourage you to stop by and just take a look at all of the amenities. That is a biophilic facility, which essentially means that, they use anything that can highlight life, like touch points that can highlight your life are contained within this facility. So it's an absolutely beautiful facility. It's state of the art, and we're very, very proud of it. It sits at 3030 G Street Southeast in Ward 7. As it relates to boost camps, like I mentioned before, kind of the forgotten ages really is like those kids who are a little too old for signature camps. They don't want to be in with the 6-year-olds and the 10-year-olds and maybe even some of the 8-year-olds, but they're not quite old enough to work with our SYEP participants who come from DOES. So in response to that, DPR kind of developed what we used to call tween camps, but we now call them boost camps. That's BOOST, boost camps. I know someone had put in the chat asking about boot camp, and we're not military, so we don't do the boot camp thing. It's boost camp with an S. And so the boost camps, some of them are 1 week, some of them are 2 weeks, and they vary. And our youth development and teens division manager, Marcus Allen, does a great job putting together the curricula for the different boost camps. We've had a young medical, we've had esports, all sorts of topics that you could probably, think of that kids will be interested in. And so again, we encourage you to visit our website to just kind of take a look at what the boost camp options are. And again, they could be 1 week, they could be 2 weeks, but those are additional options for that middle age where you don't want them in the house all summer playing the game and just kind of hanging out by themselves. But this is an option for them where they're not with the little kids and they, again, they're not quite old enough to work and earn a paycheck yet, but there is still opportunity for them to be able to participate in some group activity and some socializations with their peers.
So, Natasha, just wanted to touch on thank you for that.
Mhm.
That sounds exciting. I'm almost imagining myself being a teenager again, and enjoying some of the experiences that your team has been talking about. We've had a couple of questions, and maybe you can touch on this about Camp Riverview.
Mhm.
Camp Riverview is coming back. I know it's a week-long camp in Southern Maryland. It's overnight. But if there's any other information that you can tell folks about it, that'd be really great.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Camp Riverview is near and dear to my heart. I think everybody who visits Camp Riverview falls in love with it. It is a beautiful, beautiful facility that is located in St. Mary's, Maryland, St. Mary's County, Maryland, and it's DC government property. It's just in St. Mary's County. And so we have sleepaway camp at Camp Riverview. It sits literally on the bay and it is absolutely beautiful. Just the scenery around it is surrounded by water and beautiful green space. And so we use Camp Riverview to kind of expose our city kids to a little bit of rural life for a week. It is an overnight camp. During this overnight camp, which I also want to add, last year did not have costs associated with it. And so again, we encourage you to send your kids away to sleepaway camp, especially if the price is $3.99. You can't beat that rate. And so we have additional youth development professionals at Camp Riverview who provide some of the very things that you saw on previous slides. Some of those same activities happen at Camp Riverview. They've had movie nights, they've had bonfires, all those things they've had, they go out on the water on canoes and so many different activities, outdoor activities that they are able to participate in. We make sure that we have a nurse on staff and there is a really extensive adult to child ratio so that we can ensure that your kids are safe because we recognize that they're overnight 24 hours and you don't have your hands or your eyes on them, but we do. And so we want to make sure that that we have staff that have been background checked. We have staff that have a wealth of youth development, education, and experience in their backgrounds. And so they're there making sure that your children have a very optimal experience at our overnight camp.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, if we can click to the next slide. Um, and I think I just wanted to go back to Chris to talk about, in terms of registration. Hey, Chris, I enrolled my kid in this program, or my or child in the program, and I didn't get in. Can you talk about the wait list, or if I got into session one, didn't get into session two, three, and four? How, can you help them understand how the lottery works on a session by session basis?
Yeah. So what we do when we spin the lottery, let's say there's 15 spots in camp and 15 spots on the wait list. So you could win a spot in camp. You can then win a spot in the wait list or nothing at all. The wait list is automated. Really nice feature this year is you'll be able to track real time your lottery waitlist spot or your camp waitlist spot. If you go into your account, once you've logged in and you do the little drop down on your account and you go to my pending enrollments again, that's where these will live and you'll see the number associated with spot you are on the wait list. If a spot comes available, you'll receive an email to go in and either accept or reject that offer into camp. So it's automated, it's real time. If two people drop out of camp, two people will get the email instantly that the waitlist spot is available for them, and then they'll have up to 72 hours to accept that camp spot. So that's a little different than the first wave of acceptance, right? So we have from the 14th or from the 4th to the 16th is acceptance into the spot into camp, and then the automated wait list begins on the 17th. And when you get that spot off that wait list, you have 72 hours to accept it. If you don't accept it or reject it within the 72 hours, it drops off, and then the next person will get that wait list offer. But if you go to my pending enrollments, you'll see it. If you're number 4 on the wait list, if someone gets a spot at camp, your number will then say 3, and so forth and so on. So it's a nice little feature this year. We heard a lot of comments last year that you couldn't really see where you were on the wait list. So we improved that functionality in there. And so, yeah, it's a nice little feature. You can see it in real time where you sit on a wait list.
Thank you. Natasha, I'm going to bounce back to you again. You've been doing so awesome at answering these questions. And you as well, Chris. Uh, um, a common question we've been asking is people have been asking Natasha, Miss Herring, you have a big summer program to operate. How do I get a job working for you or your team? Is
Well,
there
we are the
employment
greatest
opportunities?
team to work for. Let me go ahead and put that plug in. Fantastic team to work for.
Yeah,
DPR is where the fun happens.
yeah.
And so for those of you who may be interested or know someone who's interested in seasonal employment for the summer, we encourage you to visit careers.dc.gov. Visit it often because we do make updates. And so, you may in 2 weeks or so see only 2 positions posted. In another week, you may see another 7 posted. So we encourage you, from drivers to warehouse workers to camp facilitators to people who work in food and nutrition services to aquatics. We have many, many positions for lifeguards. We train our lifeguards. So you should probably have a good grasp of the water and maybe know how to swim. But other than that, we can teach you how to be a lifeguard. And we teach you that at no cost to you. So there's a multitude of summer employment opportunities with DPR that you'll be able to see. Just continue to go to careers.dc.gov. There is a sort feature in the left margin where you can sort by agency. So select DPR and you'll see it'll say seasonal summer camp facilitator. So you'll see that it's a seasonal position. But we really encourage you to spread the word. We look for high quality youth development professionals. A lot of our staff come from the school system. We have teachers, we have paras who come in. We've even had assistant principals work for us during the summer. So, we do have people from the school systems who have that background and wealth of knowledge that they bring to our camps. But we also have youth development professionals who are not connected to the school system during the school year. They have other jobs, but during the summer, their summers are free. So education plus experience plus a passion for working with our young people is really, really important. We look at all of those factors and neither will exclude you from consideration, but they're great to have all 3, right? But that passion, I want to go back to that again, is super, super important. You have to want to work with children, right? For some, that's not what their life's purpose is, but for some, they absolutely adore working with children. And we love to have those sorts of people come in during the summer. We have a lot of people who like to, they're aquatics professionals, so they love to come in and make sure people stay safe in our pools. We value those folks as well. So if you have the compassion, if you have the capacity, if you have the experience and or education, we encourage you to apply for one of our seasonal positions. And again, there's a ton of them. They run the gamut. We even have, I think, we have an HR assistant as a seasonal position. So please make sure you take a look. If you don't see anything this week, check back again in a few weeks. There'll be plenty of positions that'll be posted. Our HR team is working hard to put all that stuff together so that we can have a very solid cohort of staffers for our summer camp positions.
Natasha, I wanted to come back to you on a question that we've heard and been trying to think about how to ask the question because our staff work really hard to make sure that they're on time and for pickup of children, both before and after care, right? So we offer before care, we offer after care,
Mhm.
but what if I'm late?
And it happens, Tommy,
Yeah,
right? We all
and it happened.
we hit
Yeah,
some traffic.
yeah,
We got to finish this one final report before I mean, we're at work still, and it's
yeah,
after
yeah,
7, so it
yeah,
happens.
right.
The first thing we want you to know that we understand, right? And we're going to work with you as best we can. You must communicate that with your facilitator that you're running late, right? To just show up late without any kind of prior notice is really not acceptable. So we ask that you communicate with your facilitator if you're running late. Now, on the flip side of that, we do have a fee structure in place for if you are late. And we have that in place because it's necessary. And it's similar to if you had children in daycare, if there was a late fee associated with it, even if you had a flat tire, even if you ran into traffic, even if the train was running slow, right? You ride the red line, so maybe it was running slow. No shade to Metro. But there's still that fee that we have to impose. And so um, those fees will be explained because we're reviewing those fees right now, but there will be fees associated for late pickups. For before care, you will not be able to drop your child off earlier than say 7:50-ish, 7:55, because we want to make sure that the staff, when they arrive, they have time to prepare for your children, to receive your children. If you do not have before care, you will not be able to drop your child off before 9. So again, we want to make sure that you are aware of that service that we do have available, and we want you to take advantage of that if you in fact need that. On the flip side, when we're at the end of our day, our staff have been there since 7:15, 7 o'clock that morning. And so by 6 o'clock, they're kind of tuckered out as well. And so we ask that you please have the consideration and courtesy of picking your children up on time. But again, if you're running late, just a courtesy phone call to your facilitator to let us know that you're running late and that you will be there. We'll wait with your children. We will never leave your child. We'll never leave him on the step and say, hey, good luck, little Johnny. When your mom gets here, we'll see you tomorrow. Great. So we will wait with your child, but we ask that you have the courtesy of advising your facilitator. And if we notice a pattern, we will have conversations with you about that, just to kind of remind you that our pickup times are this. It's 5 o'clock if you don't have before and after care. It's 6 o'clock if you do have before and after care, and there is no grace period for those. So if you're not in before and after care, 5 o'clock is your pickup time. If you are in before and after care, 6 o'clock is your pickup time. Because again, if you're later than those times, there's some staff member that we have to make sure that they stay so that your children are safe until you arrive. Our staff members also have families. They have other commitments that they have to get to when they finish work at DPR. It could be a family member. It could be taking care of personal things, and we want to make sure that we allow them that because they do respect or earn that. So we want to make sure that we pick up your children on time. 5 o'clock if you don't have before and after care. 6 o'clock if you do.
All right, Natasha and Chris, thank you for answering these questions tonight.
Absolutely.
You all are some amazing rock stars. I'm so proud to work with both of you and trust that our young people will have the best care possible under your leadership. We can click to the next slide. We're coming, it's 7:30, it's 7:29, and we want to make sure that we give you some sort of last minute things that are important. Number one, continue folks to check our website at dpr.dc.gov. That gives you everything, news, events, activities. Um, that is where you can find out the latest information that is coming up on in DPR. Also, we offer a host of programs, not just summer camp. We have Events, program services. Again, check out dpr.programs or dpr.events. If you have particular questions about our kids' camps and co-ops, you can definitely email their office. They typically respond within the 24 to 48-hour period. So just be mindful of that. Or you can call our customer care line, where there's live professionals online between 9 and 5 each and every day, where they can help you. At 202-673-7647, or you can call our registration office at 202-673-3237. So questions on lottery, questions on registration, we have our team that is available to help you. And finally, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you, the residents here of DC, and our littlest ones that will be attending some of our programs. We know that the trust that you have in us is important to us as employees and the here that work for DC Parks and Recreation. We take your trust seriously, and the safety and the well-being of your son, daughter, child is important to us. Um, and we want to make sure that you have all the information, all the tools necessary to be able to make a decision about DC Park and Recreation Summer Camp Program. So that concludes our presentation tonight. Again, I want to thank my colleagues from Natasha Herring, Chris Tierney, and their staffs, who members who are on, who have answered the call. I want to say to those staff members, thank you. I've been noticing the chat. There has been no question not answered. There has been you filtering in both the Q&A and the chat. Kudos to you. I owe you a Pete's cup of coffee to just thank you so much for the wonderful work that you've done tonight, working to make sure that we're answering um, our residents' call for DPR summer camp. Again, thank you all. And this will conclude. We'll be on for another minute or so just to make sure that we wrap up and answer any follow-up questions. So again, on behalf of my colleagues at DC Parks and Recreation, our director, Thenie Freeman, and the over 800 employees, we want to say thank you, and we look forward to seeing you this summer. Have a great evening.